was really nice. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Regarding that trip to the parish council, that was terrifying, I have to say. The scheme for the conversion of the barn here behind me got turned down the first time, so we had to go through the process again, which is it's a long process. So I rocked up at the parish council, not knowing what to expect, and I got asked a question, and it baffled. We were talking about it earlier on. Baffles me now, but somebody looked me in the eye and went, "Are you going to plant some oak trees?" If you like. So on your way out today, as you leave the new entrance that we've created, you'll see 6 newly planted oak trees. I've no idea why I planted them other than fear. But I did say to the man when they went in, they're about 14 foot high at the minute, and I said, you know, are they too close together? Are the canopies gonna, you know? He said, what do you mean? I said, well, you know, when they grow, is it gonna be a problem? He said, not in your lifetime, mate. So there you go. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd now like to welcome our final speaker, and after this we'll do the official opening and ribbon cutting. On a conversation, a briefing conversation last week, I asked this gentleman what I should call it. I started off with Lord Ashdown, but he said, no, call me Paddy. So I'd like to welcome Paddy to the stage.
Thanks, Kevin, very much. By the way, you promised to mention the hat. I'm really grateful for that introduction. I find nowadays, sometimes, forgive me, it's the hay fever. Sometimes people say, here's somebody who needs no introduction. Not exactly true these days. I was walking through Waterloo Station on my way here, ladies and gentlemen. And a little man came out to me and said, "Here," he said, "here, didn't you used to be Paddy Ashdown?" So I said, I thought I had been at some stage or another. And they said, "Oh yeah, you're the one with the hat, aren't you?" That's right. So I'm never going to live down that down, I can tell you. Ladies and gentlemen, Kevin, Madam Mayor, and of course, Mojo, who's been significant by his, I presume it is his, absence today. Thank you for inviting me. I mean, it's impossible, having met all of you, not to have been already hugely impressed with a sense of enthusiasm, and if I may say, fun as well. You just listen to those presentations, they were really terrific. The one thing that comes through so strongly is people's commitment to what's going on here, and you're right, and I want to tell you why I think you're right. And I want to tell you why I think what you're involved in here is not just something hopefully commercially useful to all of you, and indeed which clearly you love and are enthusiastic about, and rightly so, but you are at the front end of what's going to happen next. Yeah, I let you into a secret, and I want to say sort of 5 reasons why I think that's true. First of all, I am, Madam Mayor, please forgive me, a bit of a geek. I was in fact the first member of Parliament in 1983, 35 years ago very nearly, to have a computer. And nobody knew what on earth it was. It was an old Sirius, and you had floppy disks, some of the older may remember it. And it threw the House of Commons into a complete perplexity. I remember making speeches saying, these will change the world, you just need to know and understand that. And everybody said, now that's an exaggeration. But they have. By the way, let me make a comparison, a simile for you. My grandfather, the ordinary cattle auctioneer in Rathfriland on the hill in Northern Ireland, was the first man in Ireland to have a car. And he said they would change the world. And what was really important was they would change the whole structure of our society, the way we lived our lives, our infrastructure. They would change everything, you know, but he thought it was nonsense, and of course it has. Not that he was always right, ladies and gentlemen. He had a good friend from Belfast who came down to see him, who was also a car enthusiast, very early cars, and he came down and said, I've got this great idea. Instead of having solid rubber wheels, why don't we have pneumatic tyres? And my grandfather said, that's rubbish. It'll never work. And so his friend said, so I don't suppose you want to invest in my business then? And my grandfather said, certainly not, Mr. Dunlop, go back to Belfast. So he wasn't always right. What I'm very clear, if you make the comparison, I tell that story, is because I think in the way that you take the invention of the motor car, let's say 1880 or something thereabouts, I think we're about 1920. You haven't seen anything yet. These things are going to fundamentally alter the way that we live our lives in all sorts of ways. And if you're, I think if you're in a business model today that has not taken account of the new technologies, you're going to fail. And by the way, I can think of several. One is politics, which doesn't take account of it. Another's newspapers, whose business model is still that great whirring machine in the ground floor, which produces newsprint. No one's going to be looking at that much in the years to come. You're in that area, and it's really important. The second point I want to make to you is why it's important, is this. And this is a very good example of it, and I'm going to give you another in just a second. You know, I suspect if you looked at the development of the greatness, the commercial power of nations in the first, let's say, 1,500, 2,000 years of humanity, you'd say, he who managed land, production from the land, won, and was great and strong and economically powerful. And then from the advent of the Industrial Revolution, first of all, he who managed capital and could make it grow, won. And then later on, as we moved into the business of mass production, he who managed labor, won. I am very, very clear that in the next 100 years, and probably more, the criterion for firms that succeed and win, and for nations too, if you want to be at a high value, high product, high wage nation rather than a low value, low wage production nation, the thing that will determine success is your management not of land or of labor or of capital, but of intellectual capital. It's how you create and grow and manage your intellectual capital that will, I think, define the future. And all of you here involved in the businesses you're in are about doing that. My third point in why I'm so enthusiastic, and try if I can to express a match for your enthusiasm, is take a look around you. If you want to see how the new technologies will alter our society in the future, look to the past. Actually, oddly enough, the social and economic infrastructures of the past are very much what I think things may look like in the future, obviously with the new technologies involved, but the past can often be a model of what happens. So just take a look over there, look behind you at that fabulous 500 years old, I'm right Kevin, aren't I? 500 years old farmhouse, and at the sheds around here. And imagine what this was like 100 years ago. This was a commercial centre. This employed people. I don't know how many, maybe get 500 acres, Kevin was saying, 500, maybe as many as 50 would have been employed in one way or the other before the mechanisation of farms. It was, Madam Mayor, not just an economic centre, but a centre for employment and the generation of wealth. And the community of Wickham, would have depended on this. And now it does again. Because in that interim period, the period of the Industrial Revolution, what we did was we were forced to take people to work. And actually we create a sort of schizophrenia in our society. You lived amongst one community, but you worked amongst a different community, and they were split and they were far away and they were disconnected. And people felt a bit confused about it. We've learned to live with that. But now you're recreating exactly what you had before. You're now living and working in your own community. What you've done in this is given it not just a new economic basis, but also a new human. And that, I think, for those who really understand what's going to happen, is the crucial aspect of what happens next, of how this thing will develop and alter the pattern of our lives and the basis upon which we build our world. My third point, and almost my last, you'll be glad to hear, give a politician a captive audience and God help you, is this, that what the new technologies do, you know, what the old machines did, they did things for you. You put a billet of metal in one end, and then you got something out, and the machine did it in between. And of course, you had to help there too. But it did things for you. What the new technologies do is enable you to do things for yourself. They are crucially, and I was speaking to somebody here who was talking about his part in the business, they are enablers. They're things that enable you, your individual potential, Now, I'm a liberal. You may understand, may know that. Madam Mayor and I share that belief. But I don't want to go into politics, except what I believe in is not strong states. What I believe in is strong citizens. What I believe in is the enabled and the empowered citizen, able to make their own lives, able to create their own economic framework, their own economic freedom. That's why small businesses are so important. And that's exactly what you do. It's exactly what the new technologies do. You enable people to develop their potential, to give themselves opportunities. This is not done for you, you do it for yourself. And you see that around here. You see it in the little firms who have got established here, and impressive that they are. You have provided service, and that's absolutely crucial. But you've also enabled your own ability. And that, I think, is even. That's why I'm so enthusiastic about this, as you may have seen. And my last point is the point that was made by Kevin so well. You know, we are now in an economic recovery, I hope. It remains very fragile. We are still borrowing far too much, both privately and publicly. And I'm afraid to say that our economy remains still dangerously unbalanced. That's my notes over there. Our economy remains dangerously unbalanced. Too much in the City of London, too much on financial exploitation. I don't want to see that diminished, it's one of our gifts. Too much, I think, about consumption, not enough about selling tradable goods, which is what you did, albeit the goods are the product of your minds. And too little in the middle and lower sectors. Too many big, too few small. Take a look at Germany, and you'll discover that Germany is much more developed. It has large industries, but it has an immensely powerful underpinning of small business and small enterprise, which feeds that, and which grows, of course, into that. And that's why what you're doing here is so important. Not just for you, the individual, not just for the community, but also you're one of the, I'm afraid, still far, far, far too few small businesses in the small business sector that ought to be much larger. And one of the jobs of any government that wants to see success in our economic future is to encourage exactly that small business, exactly that enterprise. Because it's not only liberating for individuals, but it's also important for our country. So you'll see, I'm immensely pleased immensely impressed with what I've seen, not least the human enjoyment and enthusiasm. I'm sorry not to have seen Mojo, but I've no doubt will. But I do want to say to all of you who contributed to this glorious place on this glorious day, success and development of your own potential. To those of you involved, thank you. To those of you who want to be involved, get involved. If you're a client here thinking about having. And if I may especially pick out Kevin Winstanley, because it was your vision, Kevin. You took the risks. Your workforce obviously have a very high regard for you. And for that vision and its success, thanks to you and to all of you for asking me here today.
Old technology, paperwork. Thank you, Paddy. That was awesome. Again, keep using that word. Should stop doing that. I'm really pleased at the way today's gone. Thank you all very much for coming along. It's great to see what I did imagine this place would be actually come to life, come to fruition. Wasn't always easy. Steve, I hate to say it, we weren't the first bank manager. There were a few during that recession. It's amazing how quickly they ran away, I noticed. But yeah, continued success to all of us. I think we're now going to officially unveil the plaque, and then we're going to have lunch in the garden. And I'm sure Mojo will be there, Paddy, networking, as he always does. So thank you all very much for coming along today.
Ready? Yeah. Yes.